think that there's so much information nowadays, and the biggest thing that I see is even in the health space, you can go and find so many different people saying, "Don't eat fruit, don't eat vegetables, don't eat meat,
Yeah.
don't eat this, don't eat that." And it's by the common joke that I see is by the year 2027, we won't have anything that's safe to eat.
Yeah.
And it's not about what some study says is safe or beneficial. It's about your experience of what you're eating, or it's the exercise that you will do, not the EMGs are saying about this is the best exercise. It's
When you eat this, what's your
if you're
poop
not,
look like?
yeah, you're the experiment. You're the only data point that really matters. And once you get beyond the basics, it's purely what works for you. Almost too much information and too much it's become too heady and polarized,
Mm.
and it's not sexy to say eat what makes you feel good, plants and animals. Find your balance that works for you. If you like 6 meals, if you like 3, go for it. If it has a barcode, chances are you probably want to take a look at that. Same thing goes for exercise. Does it work for you?
Welcome to the Sovereign Mind, Body, and Soul podcast with Coach Jerry. I'm your host, Coach Jerry. This is where I deliver to you the truth about pain-free health and joy as I know it from my heart and soul. I left my corporate 7-to-7 job to pursue holistic health and rehabilitation, a passion that stemmed from my personal struggles with obesity, misery, and disease. It was only after I surrendered my attachment to the medical system that I began to truly heal at the root. From arthritis and depression to autoimmunity, it all vanished when I put the doctors and pharmacists on the do not call list. The passion to share the truth as I know it about health was so strong that I left my 6-figure corporate management job, and here I am with you today. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome to the Sovereign Mind, Body, and Soul podcast with Coach Jerry. I am your host, Coach Jerry, and today I am pleased to present to you a couple of my favorite people in the holistic health world. These guys are holistic health practitioners. They've gone through the CHEK Institute, so they are interested in helping people on a deep level in mind, body, and soul. And that happens to be the topic of today's podcast, which is how to find holistic health in mind and body. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce them one at a time. Mr. John Melgard. Tell everybody who you are and what you're about.
So, obviously, I'm John Melgard. I am a level 2 CHEK practitioner, and I operate out of Crozet, Virginia. And I've been doing mostly with my clients a system of body work based on kinesiology. It's called Be Activated. And it's been a fast track for me to get to the deeper issues with my clients, because with this system, I'm seeing the mental, emotional things mirrored in their physiology. And rather than taking months to get to the deeper issues, I find that my clients just open up with me very quickly because they're feeling what I'm feeling during these sessions. And that's been the focus of my practice. And I incorporate the holistic lifestyle coaching and exercise side of things as the holistic offering, because when we balance the body, we can balance the mind, and vice versa.
Heck yeah, we're gonna get a little deep into that later today. Mr. Nick Papa, brother, tell everybody who you are and what you're about.
How's it going, guys? So I'm Nick Papa. I am also a level 2 CHEK practitioner. I am working out of Charleston, South Carolina. My approach to holistic lifestyle coaching is mainly rooted in exercise. So my assessment process gets to the base root of whatever dysfunction, pain, or what's ever inhibiting performance, finding the root problem and solving it quickly. I've had great success with clients getting out of pain within 3 months or less, some within less than a month, giving ample time to increase performance and get them to their goals. So
Awesome. None of us here are doctors or medical professionals, so I want to just preface that. So for the YouTube communist censorship team, I just want you guys to realize that we're not giving medical advice here. We're just sharing our real lived experience. This is for entertainment purposes only. But most people, when they think about health, they think about the medical system, and there's a huge difference between health and medical. And I think the medical system has hijacked the health world just in how they how do they term things? Healthcare. Right? Healthcare system, insurance, healthcare, all of that. So I have my opinions on why the quote unquote medical approach to healthcare doesn't work, but curious, what do you guys think? Why isn't it working?
You want to start, Nick?
I figured you would take the reins, but
I'll start. It's interesting for me that you're exactly right. The medical profession has co-opted health. And I forget his name, there was a doctor, he was a Stanford professor of medicine, and he wrote a book basically saying you need to be very cautious when consulting with a doctor because they're going to open up all these tests and want to essentially just perform surgeries over and prescribe medications that have many different side effects. And I think the big challenge is the timing that medical practitioners have with their clientele. They don't get to develop a relationship with their patients and say, all right, what's actually going on in this person's life? What's going on in their internal environment and their external that can be causing the issue? And 10 minutes is not enough to cover that. It takes me hours and hours just doing initial paperwork and conversation with my clients to even start to get an idea of what's going on. And I forget the rest of the question.
Yeah, just why isn't it working?
It's not working because we're not addressing the foundation needs of a human being. We're not recognizing that we are part of nature and that we have natural needs. We have a need for sunlight, fresh air, fresh water, and food that is from the earth, because human comes from humus of the earth. We are supposed to be created from the same substance. And we're now inundated with all these wonderful, tasty options that I would say are not of the earth. They're of boxes, and medicine doesn't address all of the dysfunction that is coming from stepping away from the natural environment. And I'm not saying that we've got to go back to the land and live as cave people, but there's basic things that we can integrate with how our society has changed and moved. And it just doesn't seem to be entering the conversation with standard medical approach.
Yeah, I'd even go so far as to go into, if we take a look like the actual vitality of real food versus the vitality of processed foods. And what is a disease state? A disease state is low vitality, right? And it's high what we call physiological load. And so when our physiological load gets high, we get closer to, physiological load goes up, vitality goes down. As our vitality goes down, we get closer to death, so to speak. And the introduction of pharmaceuticals they're foreign substances, just like a processed food. They go into our body. They might have some sort of a systemic or symptomatic management effect that might improve one's perception of feeling better, but it is increasing our physiological load and therefore decreasing our vitality and pulling us farther away from our higher vibrations, our higher states of being. Nick, what's your take?
I absolutely agree. Although I will have to say that I do believe there is value to our medical system. And there is a time and a place for that. I think all of us can agree on that. There's a certain time and a place. And not every situation warrants going into that because, like you said, Jerry, we might just be band-aiding the problem. And it really comes down to a lot of what John was saying of lifestyle factors. What are you consuming? This goes for food, and even if I were to say so far, not even just medical professionals as in doctors, but like psychologists as well. What are you consuming when it comes to media? What are you doing with your lifestyle when you are not in the gym working out? Because I believe a lot of people look at health and they solely look at the factor of movement rather than everything else that surrounds it. Lifestyle, like getting the sun, grounding, eating again, drinking water, quality water, how they rest, how they introspect on their own life. This all plays a major role. And I know firsthand of, not me personally, I guess secondhand, right? My brother is in the medical field and he's a PA, which is great because we get to have open conversations on a lot of topics and really draw great conclusions together. But having his experience, like John was saying, they don't have the time to sit down and really connect to somebody and understand what the lifestyle factors and other factors are that are creating ailments and diseases. It's more of how can we fix the problem right now so you can get out of here feeling okay, whether here, take this or do that. Yeah. I also believe this kind of dribbles into the education system that they go through as well.
And so when you said there is a time and a place, specifically what's a time and a place where the medical approach is more appropriate than like a health approach?
Extreme diseases, maybe like cancer. and dealing with that on a guideline. If there is, so this is my whole thing with a holistic approach, which I guess I kind of segueing into another conversation for later. It's about doing what you can to prevent something from happening in the first place and taking every measure and every step. Like I've heard instances of people having cuts and infections and using Chinese herbs and ointments to try to deal with the infection, where it then had to get worse and they felt it was the need for them to go take an antibiotic per se. Or if it's a disease that's really out of control, that you've taken all the measures, try to mitigate or get to the root problem and it still doesn't solve it, then there might be an instance where you can go after it. Also, cuts, breaks, and things like that are absolutely necessary.
John, give me a take on what it is that the general public doesn't really know about health that it would really benefit them if they did understand.
How simple it is. I think that there's so much information nowadays, and the biggest thing that I see is even in the health space, you can go and find so many different people saying, don't eat fruit, don't eat vegetables, don't eat meat, don't eat this, don't eat that. And it's by the common joke that I see is by the year 2027, we won't have anything that's safe to eat.
Yeah.
And it's not about what some study says is safe or beneficial. It's about your experience of what you're eating, or it's the exercise that you will do, not the EMGs are saying about this is the best exercise. It's
when you eat this, what's your poop look like?
Yeah, you're the experiment. You're the only data point that really matters. And once you get beyond the basics, it's purely what works for you.
Yeah.
And it's really just there's almost too much information and too much. It's become too heady and polarized. And it's not sexy to say, eat what makes you feel good, plants and animals. Find your balance that works for you. If you like 6 meals, if you like 3, go for it. But plants and animals, did it come from the earth? If it has a barcode, chances are you probably want to take a look at that. Same thing goes for exercise and all the other things. Does it work for you?
Yeah. And to your point, like the barcode thing, every time I see the barcode thing, I go right to like MyFitnessPal, right? Chronometer is a little better, but like that just boils down to the total ignorance. And don't think that's a bad word. Look at it as a literal definition of what ignorance is. The ignorance of how we approach the health game. There's people right now, doctors, obesity doctors, telling everybody that you need semaglutide, otherwise you're never going to be not obese, right? They're using data, they're using scientific studies that say when people get off of semaglutide, they gain the weight back, or 90% of the people can't lose weight with diet and exercise. Well, yeah, they're not giving it enough time. They're not losing the weight because they've got fatty liver, they've got pancreatic dysfunction, they've got gallbladder dysfunction, they've got all these things. They're not giving their organs and their glands time to heal so that their body can metabolize and assimilate nutrients like a normal person can. So this whole, I would just say it's just ignorance about there generally, and it boils down to our definition of health is calories in, calories out, which again, that's a whole deep rabbit hole on what is bioavailability, was upregulation and downregulation metabolism. We can go on and on. We can go into the Andrew Huberman mode. We mentioned the doctor gives 5 to 10 minutes every few weeks or months, maybe even once a year, if that. And a good holistic coach is going to give you multiple hours per month. Which is more effective? And why is that important? Why is that dynamic important?
More important is spending the time to understand the individual.
That's novel.
Yeah, the individual of where they're at and where they want to go. What do you know now?
Oh, you're talking deep shit.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth of the matter. Because how do we know without taking the time to understand, talk to the individual, how this affects you, doing questionnaires of having the awareness of outcomes of actions and behavior. What's driving those actions and behavior? That is what yields results with lasting change. It's not, like I said before, like we were saying, it's not a supplement that's going to solve the problem. It's not a pill that's going to solve the problem. It's the approach. So then again, this is back to the whole holistic thing of looking at the big picture, finding the root causes, and fine-tuning it all.
Last I checked, everything you just talked about, and anecdotally been doing this for years, and what you just mentioned is the important driver. That is, it doesn't matter if it's back pain, if it's gut health, whatever it is, the things you just mentioned are what matter. But last I checked, it's not on a medical intake.
No.
John, why do you believe that's important? 5 to 10 minutes once a year or every few months versus hours per month?
If you could get the 5 to 10 minutes. I really feel like I'm just going to echo Nick, having the connection and taking the time to really understand the individual that is in front of you and their unique situation, because we're not cookie cutters. Everybody's situation is different. Every person that gets on my table presents with a different pattern. And even if they have the same pattern, the pain manifestations are different. And
Yeah.
there's so much individuality that goes into resolving a health issue or any kind of dysfunction. And it's really just, you need the time in order to really sort it out, figure it out.
Yeah. And what you guys and what we're able to give people, let's face it, it doesn't matter what your condition is. You feel better when someone gives you attention and they care about your issue. And that's really, people aren't being heard. People aren't being listened to. And people end up just adopting this strategy of suppressing. And to your point about it's generally the same things that cause diseases to occur, but it manifests in different ways. And I have a client I've been working for a couple of years, and she had undiagnosed dissociative movement disorder. It's very rare. It's something you can barely find it. I had to look on PubMed for it. Stephen Walensky calls it kinesthetic amnesia. But really, you take a look at the things that lead to this developing, and it's this basically the same etiology as dissociative identity disorder. So the thing that same things really that causes personality, multiple personalities, is causing this detachment from the actual physical body. So yeah, it's very important, in my opinion, to get down to the individual level and what is it that's making them tick. And it's like, you got to know what makes all humans tick, right? What makes everybody tick? What makes everybody ship sail? And what is missing in this person's body, the overall body, mind, body, and soul. And that's, I think we're about ready to stick the shovel in the dirt and get a little bit deeper here, guys. Before we do that, guys, if you're still with us, you're obviously interested in finding and how to find holistic health in the mind, body, and soul. And if you are, please, if you're listening to this on Substack, please subscribe. You can be a paid subscriber. You don't have to be, but you can. We sure appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment down below. This keeps the algorithm pumping this small grassroots podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, leave us a review. I really appreciate it. And any platform you're listening to or watching on, please give us a share. We'd all appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Short-term, long-term support is greatly appreciated. With that being said, why do people not chase their dreams?
I think a big part of it's fear.
Okay.
There could be multiple factors in the way, but I would have to say a huge part of it could be fear. I've seen it in my own life. What does fear stand for? I guess we could start there, right? It's forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. I don't know if it could be a fear of success or a fear of losing what they once had, or maybe they're just comfortable where they are, which could play a big role. I have what I need, and we can take a Band-Aid approach to everything, or I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but yeah, I think that's a big piece for sure.
What have you ever been scared of?
Afraid of outcomes, or not having, afraid of not being able to do it myself, like not having the confidence, right? Of, can I really be that person? And it just comes to taking the first step and getting clarifying and getting clear on the dream first. What do I really want?
Yeah. And how about being real clear on what's really at stake? Because what's the worst part about not being that guy, right?
If you're not that guy, you're going to be the guy you don't want to be. And then you're just living your nightmare. Right now, for me,
anyone.
Oh.
And meditate on that one, John.
Yeah, I might have to.
Why do people not chase their dreams?
Why don't they chase their dreams? I think a lot of times it's not brought to the front of someone's awareness. I can remember growing up, it wasn't until I was 3 that someone asked me, what do you want to do with yourself? Really? What do you want to do with yourself? And how do you want to contribute to the community? And so there's a lack of getting clear on what the dream is, and we're not being told that it's even something that is possible, that, oh, that's just something in your head. And I think for me, that comes back to schooling, where in some ways it can turn into situations like, for me personally, it was don't bother asking because the question is already no. Like, you're on this path, you've got to just go along with this path because that's what you're told to do. Don't bother asking for what it is you're looking for, whether that's some small ask or the dream of transforming my life and starting a new career, moving to a new location on down the line.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And it is fear, Nick. It is. And a lot of times you don't have to drill it down any farther than that. And I would say that when people get real with their false limiting beliefs, the deep-seated shit, and I'm talking simple stuff like feeling worthless, feeling incompetent, feeling powerless, feeling like they don't know. When you can get down to their relationship with those things, then really that's what they're fearing. So when Nick says that guy, what is it that guy represents, right? And he says your nightmare, and it's, yes, you're onto it. You got it right there. It's right there. But what is that guy's nightmare? That guy's nightmare might be being worthless. That guy's nightmare might be stupid. Oh gosh, if I go after that and I fail, I'll find out I'm worthless and dumb. And it's really like this impossibility wall that we create within ourselves. That wall is so fucking thin. It is so fucking thin, but we let it be just impenetrable. Absolutely impenetrable. And on the other side of that wall is your gift. So when we get down to what is it that your gift is and why are you scared of your gift? We can go deep into that, but generally someone has told you that your gift is not that and you don't worry about your gift. Your role in this world is to not fill in the blank, and it's their impossibility wall that they're not willing to face. So you got someone that is only worried about producing financially or only worried about you name it. And you might have a gift of artistic ability, musical talent, and God has given you that gift to share with the world. But someone else has told you that your gift is to go make money, put your head down, build the 401k, don't worry about that. And meanwhile, you only share your gift with you. And that's if you take the time, we go into Dr. Happy stuff. If you only take the time to play music for yourself, if you only take the time to do art for yourself, you don't get to share that gift with the world. And if you're not sharing your gift with the world, you don't get to inspire others. But it's that impossibility wall, that fear of, Nick said, the nightmare. And that nightmare could be being worthless, not knowing, making a mistake. It's just the simplest stuff. So anyway, everybody in the audience, meditate on that shit.
Yeah, I actually want to piggyback off of that. And
Yeah, do it.
It's a standardized normal thing to go through that process of, okay, we're going to school, and then from school we go to college, and when you go to college, get that degree. That's how you're going to
be a good slave. Be a good slave.
Right. Be a contributing member of society. When you achieve you find your dream, have the awareness, get healthy, get clear, right? Because if you're not healthy in body, you can't be healthy in mind. If you're not healthy in mind, it'll be hard to get healthy in body. Then can find your dream, right? You get clear on that, have the awareness of what it is that you're really meant here to do, get in touch with yourself, and you will serve society through your dream.
To know your dream, like, you've got to find that gift. You've got to find that gift. And if you guys know the accurate saying or quote that Rockefeller said, but Rockefeller said, I'm not here to find artists and musicians. I'm here to find producers. And if we take a look at what's rewarded in society, the scientism, the religion of science, the religion of the medical industry, the religion of intellect and academia, right? From the time you're like, they pull you out of crayons and playing with stuffed animals, and they're like, you either get an A or a B or you're not accepted in this family. I don't want to get a call from your school that's going to make me feel like I'm producing losers. And I hope your parents were that way. Mine certainly were. My dad was too drunk to be that way, but that is really like what has been imparted on us is how we provide value to the world. And it's just so foreign to what our soul wants. It's so foreign to why we're really here. And again, that's how not chasing your dream or uncovering your gift or expressing your gift and suppressing your gift creates disease. Gabor Mate is a great example of that. I don't think he really gets into the dream and the gift, but you can decipher his message and really get down to it. We suppress emotion. What is suppression? It's the opposite of expression. And he says we don't express our emotions. What are emotions tied to? Our desires and our wants, which is our dream.
Yeah. And I think I'll keep going.
Don, you got anything to add on that one, dude?
I think that you're exactly right. When you find the dream is the gift to the world, and that's the contribution that you're making. And that is a form of production, because anybody who's in alignment with their dream is going to have an effect. They're producing an effect on themselves, on the people that are around them, and on the environment. And there's no getting around that. It's just you have an effect. Everybody has an effect on the world. There's nobody that's acting in isolation. What is it? What is the effect? Are you going to live in alignment with yourself, with your nature and your dream, or not?
Yeah. It's practical application of concepts here. How does not following your dream or suppressing your gift create, I don't know, dysbiosis or headaches?
So something I was thinking about before, and then I was like, I paused, and I'm like, maybe we'll carry on. But I see a lot of people walk around, especially people around my age, wondering, oh, there's got to be something more. Oh, there's got to be a purpose. And it leads into almost a head trip, right? Because they're following the societal standard, and then they're running this trip through their mind that there's nothing more, or that this is just the way it has to be. And because of the lack of happiness created in their life, they aren't creating a natural rhythm for themselves. Now that they're out of rhythm, they'll run to whatever makes them feel better. What makes you feel better? Oh, I'm hanging out with a couple buddies this weekend. Let's go drink. Drinking a lot, that can lead to, or, oh, now we're drinking, I'm going to go McDonald's because now I'm hungry and it's 3:00 in the morning. So now their circadian rhythm's out. They're eating processed foods that aren't serving their body in the ways that they want to be. And the cycle kind of continues that way. It's a small example, but it goes into other areas of huge. Why work out? Right. If this is what it's going to be, why do I have to move? That seems like time, energy, and a lot of time, energy, and effort to put into something that, like, I don't see the purpose in. So if 100%. You're not having the purpose in your own drive or your dream and the creation of your own life, it's going to fall short everywhere else, feeding into the nightmare.
Boom! Mic drop. Exactly. Exactly what, I mean, dude, like, that is like what Gabor Mate is trying to get to. And I would say that our choices based on our mental, like you said, mind fuckery or mental state or the stories we tell ourselves, I think that's the first symptom of autoimmunity. What's autoimmunity? It's our body attacking itself. We attack ourselves with the choices we make. Boom. John, what do you think?
I don't know that I have much to add to that. That was beautiful. The first thing that I thought of was when we're not experiencing that deeper soul pleasure, we go to the lesser pleasures. And those are any number of experiences, whether they're sight, smell, taste, feel, or what am I missing? Hearing, that are detrimental to us. And we get into the vicious cycle where those lesser pleasures, they don't hit the same, and so we need more. And whatever it is, we continue to go back to that thing. It's like, all right, I remember the first time I had this, or I had these amazing cookies. And you keep going back to that recipe, and suddenly it's not 2 cookies, and you're like, oh, these are the best cookies ever. You've got to have 3, 4 cookies on down the line. How many alcoholics start out just having a beer after work? And the next thing, it's a 12-pack. And those lesser pleasures, whatever they may be, so often wreak havoc with whatever system they're engaging with. And many other systems, because no system gets sick alone.
There's a golfer, actually, David Ferretti. It's not John Daly. David Ferretti is talking about alcoholism. And I remember watching this, being pissed drunk on whiskey. And it's been 9 years since I've touched a drink. And I remember it hitting me like, oh, that's it. So he said, the alcoholic drinks until they get that click. And the click is, you've had enough. And for many of us, it was when you pass out and you drop the whiskey glass or whatever it is. But what came up for me as John was talking was, that's the soul tapping out. You haven't satiated anything, but that's the soul going, I give up. I'm done trying today. We'll try tomorrow. And that is the complete lack of satiation. And so we'll go back to suppressing the gift. If we know we're suppressing a gift, we're not chasing our dream. We're running directly towards the nightmare, and we're resisting running towards the nightmare. But what's not being satiated is the soul's mission. And along those lines, what would you guys say is the soul's role in optimizing our highest self, but ultimately in healing and turning this ship around?
John, I'll let you take this one away.
Okay, that's a big one. This is such a big question because
If you ever need to pause and take a breath and go into your heart, go ahead and do it. This is a holistic show, bro. Like,
Can you, just for my sake, rephrase that question for me?
yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, restate it, I should say.
what is the soul's role in healing? Optimizing your highest self.
the soul it's the small centerpiece that will never lie to you. We can have all sorts of mental constructs that will lie to us. And there's always that little spark that's telling us you're lying, you're deceiving yourself, you're not following your gift, your purpose, your dream. And it's the safe house at the center where the deepest pleasures are held and guidance and love. And without those things, we create disease. Not being in touch with that is, in my opinion, an expression of dis-ease. We are not at ease when we are not in connection with that. And it's from that place that we can recognize the dark thoughts that we're having or the actions that we committed in our past were not from the divinity, from the divine essence, but they were a strategy to meet some kind of need. Subop, sure, but it's a comfort to know that all of the other things, the trickery, deception, and suboptimal choices, we'll call them, don't make us a bad person because at our core, we're one with the divine. And I think I'm just going to repeat myself. Not being in connection with that, sure, we should look at how we're having an effect on the world. Start with the connection with the soul, with the divine within. And from that, everything changes. Goodness flows.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Nick, you
And,
got anything to add?
yeah, a few words popped into my mind, especially after I told John you can take it. But guidance was a big one. It's connecting with our soul. I feel like we're always going to have, it's like what John said, we're always going to have that guidance and know where to go and know what to do. Connecting and getting clear, coming from a place of love. It's always love driven, never steer you wrong.
Yeah.
And without that connection, I believe most individuals, like John was saying there at the end, seek outwardly for love, for guidance, for whatever it is that they can get from the inside. In reality, I feel like this kind of sounds corny, but it's true. Once you go in, you get everything you need on the outside. Once you go in and you connect, everything you were looking for will present itself.
Yeah.
You will see all the opportunities. You will know what you need to do and keep yourself on that path of bringing it back to the dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is one of those really deep. Go ahead, John.
Even, sorry, even to make it a little bit more concrete, I remember listening to Zach Bush, and so that inmost spark, the soul is love, and love is connection. And he related a story about how cancer is a cell that is disconnected from the rest of the being. And so it goes into this state of fear, starts consuming as much resource as possible. Because if I'm not cooperating with anything, I might as well try to consume as much as possible, get as big as possible, because I'm the entity in itself. And so when we reestablish connection in the system, cell suddenly says, "Oh, I'm part of a larger whole," and then acts accordingly. And we can. He has many stories of spontaneous remission, and it's that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I would even say, if we look at Dr. Stephen Walensky's work, which John, you and I have talked a lot about, and he talks about really there's two massive states of chaos that we're looking to avoid. And that is, I don't know, and I fear annihilation. And so if you take a look at a cancer cell is confused and it fears annihilation, even though it is detrimental to everything in its environment. It does not want to be annihilated. And if we take a look at the host of that cancer cell, generally there is a correlation where someone is living out of alignment, they're living sideways, and they too are confused and they too fear annihilation, not necessarily of themselves, but of certain ego identities, certain states of belief, certain states of perceived being, status, what have you. And it's touching the microcosm and the macrocosm effect. And I would, to piggyback onto both your points, is this is a very deep question that, much like a Zen koan, it could be, oh, the answer is this, but you can't answer from the mind. It's got to be this soul-guided response. And my whole take on that is, as long as we realize that the soul is always seeking to expose our vulnerability, because the soul will not show you what you haven't evolved consciously or psychologically to handle. And the soul will never lie to you. So the soul will expose your biggest vulnerabilities that you're ready to handle right now. But your ego is afraid of vulnerability. Your ego is afraid of being exposed. You're afraid of not knowing, afraid of being annihilated. And so it's the ego that takes that little soul message and blows it up to this big thing. I remember you and I were talking once, and you were like, I read that question. I was like, that question's a snake. That question was a snake.
Yep.
Oh, I don't even remember what the question was, but it was just super simple. But that was your soul's like, John, right here. And your ego's like, fuck that. No, put it away. Didn't exist. Don't have it. You guys both touched on it beautifully. And that is that your soul is going to always guide you towards your highest self, but your ego is going to create those little impossibility walls. And it is when we get real with that we start to heal. And much like the cancer cell, we stop consuming shit around us that just keeps us sick, and we stop trying to keep parts of ourselves alive that are. So along that, like we talked about the ego, and our ego likes to form all these different identities and belief systems. And from whatever you guys have seen and experienced, maybe within yourself or people you've worked with, how would you say that people's belief systems aid in creating disease and get in the way of their healing? How about if we think in terms of choices?
I was thinking more so.
There's kind of two ways I want to take that. There's the belief that there's no way that standing out on the ground with my bare feet for 20 minutes will heal my inflammation or have this positive benefit, because this study said it's BS or this study said it's BS. And so we have the placebo effect or the nocebo effect, where our belief, and I think not only our belief in the specific modality, but also the person that is prescribing or administering the modality. I believe Dr. Robert O. Becker in The Body Electric stated that over 50% of the patient outcomes were tied to the doctor-patient relationship. So if there wasn't a good relationship with the person administering, then they didn't have a great outcome. And so back to the question of how our beliefs get in the way, there's, like we said, these deep fears of I'm worthless, or I'm unlovable, or on down the line, I don't exist, I'm rejected. And if we allow ourselves to sit in that, then everything we attempt is seen through that lens of I'm worthless, so this isn't going to work. And without the power of belief and intention into what we're attempting, then it's hollow. And
how is this standing on the ground going to make me provide worth?
Exactly. Some may say that's a worthless activity because you're not doing anything. You're not producing. You're just out in your yard with no shirt on. You look like a fool.
Yeah.
You look like a jackass.
Yeah. And
I would argue that would make you produce better, though.
Correct. Yeah. That's a healthy belief, right? Dream affirmative belief. Keep going, John. I know you're on a roll.
So I had an interaction with a client, one session, 7 years of back pain. I've tried acupuncture, chiropractic, this and this. Nothing's working. And a little bit of digging, there's relationship issues. And okay, here's what I see based on just my assessment. Here's the bigger issue. And I'm going to now administer some techniques and we'll see what happens. Because if this is what's causing it and I do this and this, correct these things, that may fix it. We tried it. I did 3 techniques. She gets up off the table, looks at me, she goes, it's gone. And I'm like, cool, where are you right now? You know, trying to remind her the first exercise we did is, what is your point of focus? If you're focusing on the pain, you're continuing to create it. And she's like, how long is this going to last? I'm like, as long as you stay in the state that you're in right now. You can stay there as long as you want. You just have to hold on to it. And I saw the doubt and the fears all creep back in. I'm looking into her eyes and I'm like, this is unbelievable. She's talking herself back into pain.
Here comes I don't know.
Here. Yeah. And looking at I tried all this stuff and it was this simple. No, there's no way it could be that simple.
Nothing I try is
Or
working.
yeah, or I'm supposed to be in pain because
Yeah.
I'm a sinner. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be in pain. I'm supposed to carry this. And I receive love and attention from the practitioners that are trying to help me. And as long as I continue to manifest with this pain, then I receive loving attention from them. And so the belief of I deserve this pain or I deserve this disease, that's going to shut everything down. And
Mm.
it comes back to connecting with the soul. I mean, pain is a part, we have to experience pain to experience pleasure. Pain is a part of the great dynamic. It's one half the polarity. But holding on to it in a way that is not serving growth and prosperity of your soul's purpose, that comes down to the ego, which is where our beliefs are held. I'd love to hear someone else talk about if the soul has beliefs. Like beliefs are ideas.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you think about what our beliefs are, is our beliefs are literally programming all of our cells, like at a cellular level. And after this question is going to lead into some more like not quite so abstract, like physical world. We're going to start talking a little bit about anatomy and things like that, because I don't want people to think we're just airy fairy. We know some shit about the kinetic chain and about the body too. And that's very important to healing. But our beliefs program our cells, right? And if you have this belief that nothing I try works, I deserve to be in pain, I don't believe that I can get out of pain, then it doesn't matter what treatment and therapy that we embark on, we are going to just fall back on those beliefs and our cells are going to follow suit. Nick, do you have anything to add about all that?
I could bring it down to a physical level with belief system of having a client that didn't want to eat meat, had beliefs of the typical belief system of vegetarian and veganism, and was struggling with weight loss and some other health challenges. And I think the biggest thing there is educating yourself and understanding what's really going on, and which is what we did with her, and trying to make the change and trying to see what it's like on the other side, and what really changes. Because if she had held that belief system, she'd be stuck in the place of her lack of worthiness based on physical appearance or physical output. Whereas if that adaptation was made, let's get a little more meat in the diet or some bone broth and a couple other things, she inevitably ended up seeing results. Just to keep it real simple, I'm going to ground us down a little bit and put it there, because it goes into that kind of thing too. And I see it all the time. I've seen people come to me with connective tissue issues who are on vegan and vegetarian diets. It's not uncommon, and it's not my place to change that belief system for them either, though. It's just them on or our place, I should really say, on educate them of what's going on. And this is an avenue you can go down, or we can try to keep going the way we're going.
Yeah. And to your point, that's a moral and ethical dilemma in a lot of people's hearts and minds. And one thing that people don't maybe always factor in is that an animal's got a certain level of ethics, but no morals really. And there's only a certain level of consciousness that this animal can develop. And so if you have a dream and you have a gift, and it's in your best interest to be as healthy as possible, to give your gift to the world, then that animal can actually ascend its consciousness by becoming a part of you. So there's one take, but another one, more of a grounded approach, Nick, to get back on planet Earth here, is I'll give you an anecdotal story that I went to this weekend, and I literally was laughing out fucking loud at this health food store that we have here locally. And they have the hot bar and a salad bar, and it's like almost all vegan. Like there isn't a single animal-based product besides a little dairy in their hot bar, right?
Is it organic?
No, not all of it. No, it's not. But here's the funny part.
What kind of oils do they use?
Here's where I'm going. You're reading my mind here, right? The soul connection, bro. We're doing this to avoid cruelty to animals, yet everything that they cook with is safflower oil, canola oil. So they are literally being cruel to all the humans that are going in there and eating it. Whereas if they were to use like an animal fat, grass-fed butter, real food that our body recognizes, then you could be not cruel to the humans that are walking through your store. So I just found that it's like there's always levels to things. We can always unpack things down to the basic level. And at the end of the day, it's like, where do you draw the line? Are you not walking on bugs? Are you not doing anything that's going to harm the bacteria in the soil when you drive your car and what have you? Or when you get an oil change, are you making sure that it never gets into the ground? So there's multiple levels to things, per your point.
Absolutely.
I would love to break. Oh, you got something, Nick?
Yeah, needless to say, though, that I think our souls can guide us to go down those roads too, though. There was a point in time where I was vegan for 2 years and I felt great for the first year and a half. And then after that, I was starting to have my own complications with that process. And shortly after coming back, maybe a year after, I started to go the carnivore route a little bit and I felt better in that process. Do I eat like that now? No. I think there might be a time and a place where we really connect with our body and our soul to know that could be a possible avenue for healing.
Yeah, exactly. So we touched upon some of maybe the metaphysical effects of like back pain. John brought up a great example, but back pain is one of those pathologies that I think almost 100% of people are going to experience at some point in their life. And the medical approach, let's even talk about just on the nuts and bolts, anatomical, kinetic chain integration, all that stuff. And the people that you've seen that have been to the traditional therapists, surgeons or physical therapists, I'm not knocking anybody. Every profession has got its masters and it got their jokers. Everyone, holistic health, medical profession, everybody's got their jokers. So what have you guys seen that's really missing in like the rehabilitation phase of, we'll just say, back pain? What are some things that they're not really incorporating into, let's say, middle back pain, low back pain, what have you? Any correlations you can make? Go ahead and throw them out there.
So I'm going to start with a client example. He came to me about a year ago with a disc bulge in pain. Doctors told him he needed surgery when we know that's not the case.
We need to fuse these.
Yeah, we got to fuse it, which is...
You get herniation, you're never going to walk again.
No, and it's not true. We got him in. The biggest thing was just understanding for him the effects of his lifestyle and where his musculoskeletal system is at. And creating better lifestyle habits around diet and hydration and adjusting the position of his musculoskeletal system through corrective exercise made a tremendous difference. And like I said before, we made progress. I got him out of pain in less than 3 months, less than 2 months, actually. But that being said, there is a shortage of understanding of how all of these systems and approaches, or understanding the whole system, how it affects the low back. So with that client, after about 6 months of working together, he went back to see his physical therapist. There's a little story. And the physical therapist, so essentially, I'm going to get a little nerdy here with the anatomy. His spine was shaped like a C. He had very rounded shoulders and a flat low back with a pelvis that was pushed forward. And the physical therapist was only focused on rib cage position and not looking at pelvis position, not looking at head position, all these other kind of factors that play a role in where rib cage can sit. So, right. Basically, long story short, I'm positive and I know that this physical therapist has gotten great results for a lot of different people. And it's not that there are other physical therapists that don't get results. It's just there was a lack of consideration for where everything else was. And the exercises that were being performed in that modality of therapy were actually driving the dysfunction deeper.
Yeah. You can make a low back feel better and trash the neck.
But it was actually recreating. So this is the thing. It was recreating other low back pain. So where we solved the problem from the bulge, it created a different kind of pain. And through education and understanding, we were able to take him from that step to the next level, where now I got this guy putting kettlebells over his head, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is the goal, right? From pain, you have the dream. The nightmare is being in pain, right? You take the nightmare, you focus on the dream. Okay, I want to get fit, I want to get shape, and I want to perform better so I can be happier, be happy with who I am, whatever it may be. And you get through that pain, so this way you don't stop just at, okay, I'm out of pain, that's it.
Right.
Let's time to go. It's about pushing through to get through that dream, allow it to be the guiding light.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I mention this all the time, but you exampled it beautifully. But most of us are living in this area between pain and injury. And we put up with the pain, and then it goes into injury, and then we go into denial, and we further the pathology of injury, and then we go see a specialist or an expert, and this expert works their ass off to get us out of the injury zone, but still in the pain zone, or the pain, like you said, moves, goes to a different space. But we think that's the best we can get. But I say the challenge to anybody that is taking somebody's money is to get them out of the pain zone and to create an athlete again. Whatever an athlete is for you. If your definition of being an athlete is being able to walk every night after dinner and get in and out of your car without pain, okay, cool. Then that's our athletic goal for you. What are the biomotor abilities needed for that? What are the mobility, flexibility, agility demands, and strength demands for that? And let's make that happen. John, I'm sure you got some stories.
Man, I'm bursting over here. I'm like,
my question finally.
Yeah, so I got into this work because of back pain. I was a competitive power lifter and
Same.
blew out 2 discs in my back. And I was like, all right, I can't hire a therapist. So what do I do? And I've just been pulling the thread. And Jerry, you said it. So the question, if I remember it, was what are other professionals missing when it comes to back pain? And first and foremost for me is breathing. Like, L5S1 is, what's it, like 70% of disc problems, and then L4, L5 is 20%, and then other ones.
Yeah, and if you want to throw in knee problems and all that shit, it's almost everything.
Yeah. So the thing that I always come back to is, okay, a lot of people, myself included, I had a chiropractor look at my x-ray when I was 25, and she goes, so that looks like you're about 70 something years old. What's going on? I was like, oh yeah, I used to have 500 pounds across my shoulders. But the thing is, there are mechanisms in your body that will keep your spine decompressed. It's not supposed to bear load. And the breath is first and foremost. You have a tendinous attachment to L2, L3 at the diaphragm. So when you breathe properly, your diaphragm is going to decompress your low back. Then you can get into my work essentially with the kinesiology, where when the diaphragm works better, the psoas and the glutes work better. And if the psoas and the glutes are not working well, the body says, I've still got to do hip flexion. I've still got to be able to move. Who's going to do the job? And then we get compensation patterns, which instead of being in an expansive state where the glutes and the psoas do the job and energy flows out of the body, we have everybody say, all right, the hip is most important. I'm going to turn it around and drive in. And so everybody reverses their direction, does a horrible job, and opens us up to all sorts of pain, injuries, and dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And when we're not looking at the sequence muscles used, anybody can do this. Have your spouse put their thumbs on your butt, pinky on the hamstring, other pinky on the other side, low back. You don't even have to find the QL, just find the low back. It should go glutes, hamstrings, QL. If it's going QL, hamstring, glutes, that's compressive. It's going in the wrong order. And I don't know any physical therapist that's looking at the sequence.
What are they doing when you're testing that, John? Are they firing a particular muscle? Are they doing a leg raise?
They're picking up their leg. Just laying flat on their belly, picking up their leg off the table.
Like a swimmer's kick.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It should go glute, hamstring, QL. And if it's not that, whichever way it's wrong is a compressive pattern. And so everybody's pushing in to drive down, stabilize the pelvis so the legs can lift instead of letting the psoas do the job. And when everybody drives in, we compress the discs.
Yeah.
And that's nobody, as far as I have been able to find outside of people who practice kinesiology like this, is looking at the nervous system. And then the breathing. Breathing is the first thing I do with everybody. Can you take a breath? And I've had people on the table, I watch them exhale and I go, you've got trouble letting go, don't you? And they're like, who are you? But how we breathe shows up in our mental emotional stuff too. That's an aside. Breathing first and foremost. And then looking at the whole system. The spine is part of a larger system. And Nick was saying, if you're not looking at where the pelvis and the head are, there's load distribution throughout your system based on that.
Yeah.
You have to consider the whole system.
None of this is complicated, guys. If you understand Jenga, if you understand Legos, you understand this. And what John's talking about is a huge problem right now. We talk about kyphotic posture a lot, But one thing we don't really talk about is this upright, rigid posture. And that person you're talking about that can't let go, a lot of times you're going to see this upright, rigid posture. The QOL is pulling down on the rib cage, which is pulling down on all the way up the chain, but it's pulling down on your collarbone too. And because we're stressed out, we're chest breathing, and our scalenes are literally fighting our QL and our hip flexors. And if we've got a little bit of forward head, it's pulling our jaw in. And all of that affects the vagus nerve's ability to function and relax. And the diaphragm gets flattened out. And because the diaphragm's flattened out, we're not pumping and imbibing the spine like John is talking about. Now, I know this sounds like a whole bunch of hogwarts shit, but it's not. It's not. Like I said, if you understand Jenga, you can understand this. And the reason why it's so foreign is because if you've had back pain, I don't know about you guys, but I would say 95% of the people that I see with back pain don't understand the actual diagnosis of their back pain, right? It's always LBP, non-specific low back pain. And maybe they'll throw words out like herniation, fusion, and things like that, but they don't really understand the nature of their injury. And if they don't understand their diagnosis, and we don't diagnose anybody, guys, we don't diagnose. If they don't understand the diagnosis, they don't understand the etiology of their injury. And if they don't understand the etiology of their injury, they certainly can't understand how the breathing, the locked and trigger pointed intercostals, the trigger pointed neck, the trigger pointed jaw, the trigger pointed eyes, the lymphatic system, all of that, how all of that ties in. They're not going to understand that. And it's just like putting the Jenga back together, right? You pull a Jenga block out and the whole thing topples. A lot of times we're seeing people that's like, this is what their Jenga tower is looking like, right? We just got to go in there and just put it back a little bit and put pieces back in place. And whether it be we start near the rib cage and the pelvis area, SI joint, glute, get the pattern firing back, and then work our way up the chain to the jaw, or work our way back down. We're all probably going to approach it a little bit differently. But if you've got somebody that knows what they're looking at, they're going to pay attention to what matters. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's what matters. Everybody's going to have a different approach. You go see one Czech practitioner and they're going to look at it different. You go see some physio, they're going to look at an osteopath, they're going to come at it differently. But someone with a holistic approach and an integrated approach.
Sorry, he'll come back.
Yeah. It's good though, dude.
Boy, what a buzzkill.
I feel like this was good though.
No, it is good.
Oh, it's great. I wish I could speak as eloquently as you, though. My God, guy.
You see all the books behind me? I haven't read most of them.
I got one book. Yeah. There's a couple of mandala in there. No.
Yeah. I'm going to get a bottle of water.
I wonder if I get a bag.
A bag might be a little ambitious, but do you, man?
So like I was saying, some people, they love to start with the big toe. But guys, if you haven't had access to a Czech practitioner or a good physio or an osteopath, and you're just like tied into this belief that it has to be a certain way, or these certain experts and specialists, just rethink that. Think about all the stuff we just said. You don't have to be super anatomically competent to understand this stuff. It's more simple than you could possibly imagine. That being said,
love the Jenga analogy though.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's like you can't put them all back at once, right? Let's see, guys, we've covered a lot today. We came back to earth a little bit. Anything else you guys want to cover? Anything else you think we didn't touch up on?
I don't know. I do want to talk a little bit more about the dangers of some of the interventions that are being applied, because
go ahead.
I feel like a lot of patients and clients are not being informed as to the downstream effects of what they're receiving from their doctor. So in the case of back pain, I work with a lot of elderly currently, and they're handing out joint replacements like Tic Tacs. And so I started asking the question of like, okay, one, why the joint replacements, and two, what happens after that? So those replacements have a 5 to 10 year life on them. So you're going to be in surgery, depending on when you get it, every decade or so. And the other issue is they're not recognizing the lead up. So you go to some integrated medicine clinic or someone that's got a quick fix solution without looking at the whole system. A lot of times people are receiving corticosteroid shots, and they're not being told that those shots cause acute bone loss.
Yep.
And okay, so you're going to reduce inflammation, but you're also reducing the density of the bone and all of the material in that joint. Suddenly, I've heard of practitioners, I don't know if I should say names, but I've heard of practitioners in my area that are putting people on a 12-week course of these injections. And then a couple years down the line, it's, oh yeah, I did the shots and it just didn't work. I just need a replacement now. And it's like they're it's almost like they're being set up. It's
You
almost
well,
like
and very curious how many of those people were told, we're going to give you these shots but eventually you're going to need a replacement, right? Like words become matter. The cymatics of frequency is real, and our beliefs program ourselves. Spinal fusions, like we're going to need to fuse L5S1 or L4L5, and eventually we're going to need to fuse up the chain. I got a client that had fusions in C3, C4, I believe, or C4, C5, C3 through C5 actually. And this person had 50 plus degrees of lumbar or thoracic curvature, and guys 30 to 35 is considered normal. And his forward head posture, his forward head position was like 9-10, so it was 30%, 30% beyond the normal range. And of course, you can imagine what the lumbar spine was looking like, right? Lumbar spine was in single digit curves, and guys, we were looking at similar 30, 35 degree curve is what we're looking for. So this person had complete flexion going on in their entire body.
It's like I said, it's that C shape of the spine.
Yeah, it's a C shape. And guys, flexion is like what Nick was talking about. It's the C shape. So extension is when we're sitting upright, flexion is we're hunched over. So for the listeners, that's what we're talking about. But if you can imagine this person had all these, and I wish we had a really effective way to measure cervical curve as well, but this person was basically in a pre-herniated state in the entire spine. And then you created a small section of the cervical spine that they fuse into semi-extension, but it's created hypomobility, right? Inability to move. And everything up and down the chain is now going to experience the effects of a hypermobile demand. And nobody measured his pelvis. Nobody tested his SI joint. Nobody checked, obviously, breathing. Nobody checked any of that. And they just went and fused his cervical spine.
And the question for me is, was he told of what would happen in 5 years after that fusion? What does this look like post-surgery?
He was told that he will likely need future fusions, which is the truth. It's really tough. And this guy had a belief system too, still does, has a belief system that doesn't resonate with the things we're talking about right now. And a lot of that has to do with self-worth, lovability, and all that. But his willingness to embark on a corrective exercise program was very low. It's tough. That's tough. And that's when our beliefs really affect our ability to heal. And you can imagine the soul connection might be a factor there as well. And yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. And when the doctors say we can fix you and here's how we're going to fix you, we want to believe they can fix us.
And I think as important as it is for people to be aware of what's going to happen when they follow through with a fusion or a surgery or joint replacement, I also think it's super important to be educated on what happens when you follow through with corrective exercise, when you take a holistic approach, and people are provided with examples, because I think so commonly it's even on the physical level, a holistic approach could be woohooey. Some people think
totally, absolutely, yeah,
better and drinking more water can help alleviate my back pain.
Yep.
And then we fix the muscle or the spinal or the neck, atlas, or atlas is the top vertebrae of the spine. If it's sublux, that can create a ton of issues down the chain.
Yep.
If we educate them, they can know that there is a lack of adverse effects or potential of more surgeries or more dysfunction when it comes to just putting in a little effort this way.
Yeah, I've seen in one case that comes to mind is a gentleman had long COVID, right? It was like 6 months of long haul COVID and sciatica. And it was literally dropping 20 pounds and stopping twisted tea consumption every night. Got rid of both of them. And I hope some of these concepts are new to you. And if they are new to you, it is also our hope that they resonated with you. And if they did, you can get access to any of us at any time. And who knows, maybe you'll be able to get access to all three of us in a group setting in the near future. But with that being said, guys, where can people get a hold of you? John, where can people get a hold of you at?
So I'm on Instagram at Melgard Wellness, MELGARD Wellness, or my website is probably the best place to contact me, melgardwellness.com. Again, Melgaard.
I'll put your links in the show notes. Nick, how do people get hold of you?
So best way, opposite, through Instagram. You can find me at Brother Holistic. And then my website is Holistic Movement. So that's holisticmvment.com.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. And I think we blew some hearts.
Absolutely. Likewise, brother.
All right, peace.